Hi, everybody. Welcome. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ray Sharif Askari. I head up investor relations at Grayscale. I am thrilled to welcome the members of the Decentraland Foundation to give us a tour and give our investor base a tour and overview. This is a project that we are very excited about. And given the launch of our trust and all the intention around non-fungible tokens, we wanted to really make this more tangible for you all. So the plan is to do a high-level overview of Decentraland. We'll do a tour, and please feel free to send in questions through the presentation and the tour. You can use the question feature in Zoom. We'll take them as they come up, or maybe at the end. You can also send them to us at ir@grayscale.co. So I think we can kick it off. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Esteban, Nico, and Eric to introduce themselves and to kick off the presentation and tour. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Well, thank you so much for having us, Ray. It's a pleasure to be here. We're super excited to share the platform with you all and answer whatever questions you have. So just a quick agenda for the day. We really are excited to talk more about what Decentraland is, at a very high level, talk about what makes it special. We're going to talk about some of the technical foundations kind of in brief, and why those matter, why those are important. We're going to talk a little bit about what Decentraland can be used for, and then the different kinds of people and groups and organizations that are using Decentraland. And then obviously we're going to have, a walking tour, and we're going to show what Decentraland looks and feels and sounds like when you're kind of there in the world. Obviously, always chime in with questions throughout the presentation. And then if we have time at the end, we can go through a quick Q&A. So I'm Eric Shalik. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself before. I work in technical communications for the Decentraland Foundation. We're also joined by Nico Earnshaw, who leads developer experience for the foundation. We've also got Sam Hamilton from Community and Events, Esteban Ordano, Decentraland's co-founder and advisor. And we all work for the foundation. There we go. Thanks, Nico. So the foundation is kind of an interesting organization. It's a nonprofit, and it's really focused on the continual decentralization of the platform. It provides somewhat of a legal framework to help represent the DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization. And the DAO is a platform that allows people who hold land or mana to vote on, particular important issues that help kind of steer the shape and the development of the platform. The foundation also protects a lot of the IP, the intellectual property for Decentraland. Since Decentraland is a decentralized open world, it is not itself a legal entity, and it can't protect, some of the brand assets that we have. And then in addition to that, the foundation also oversees the homepage, documentation. We work on developer tools, the SDK, the builder, and then we also lead a lot of the bigger marketing efforts that sort of evangelize this open world. Just before we dive in, a couple quick sort of disclaimers, quick notes. We use players and users interchangeably when we talk about Decentraland. Decentraland looks like a game, it feels like a game. There are games within Decentraland, but it is not exclusively a gaming platform. There are businesses and organizations that use it to create sort of three-dimensional websites that are there to share information. It's a social platform. It's there for social networking. There's a huge range of things that you can do with Decentraland. And so, it's kind of a game and not a game at the same time. It's another quick point. This is supposed to be a pretty relaxed conversational tour. So Ray, Esteban, Nico, Sam, myself, are all just going to be talking about the platform. It's not a super strict presentation. So if you do have questions, or if there's something you're curious about, like Ray said, please chime in. And then finally, we'd like to try to wrap up in time for the WTF or NFTs conference. There is a conference center in Decentraland where we have events and meetings, and speakers show up all the time. And all this week, we've been running a conference about non-fungible tokens and the way those are being used to kind of revolutionize the digital art world, music, events, merchandising, all sorts of different things. And this is the final day of that conference. And we'd like to finish up in time for you all to dive in and check that out if you're interested. So at a high level, explaining what Decentraland is kind of tricky because there's a lot there, but we can break it down into three sort of broad categories. First and foremost, it's a virtual world owned by its users. It's a platform for creating three-dimensional content and sharing that content with your friends and other users. And finally, it's a platform for socializing, right? The virtual world is nothing without a community of users and players who are excited to be there and share that experience. So what does it mean to be a virtual world, right? I mean, we all play, different video games that might be thought of as a virtual world, but there are certain qualities that make something truly world-like, right? Even if it's online. For Decentraland, the ability to traverse and interact with this 3D environment is super important, right? This is a quality that we see in games like Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, all sorts of other social online games. The fact that players can socialize, that they can chat and interact with one another, that they can form these social circles and organize as communities within the world is super important. And something that's often overlooked is this notion of persistence. So with a lot of games, they only exist and they only are serving content when there are players connected and there to actually see it, right? It's like the age-old question: if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? With Decentraland, the answer is yes, it does. The fact that it doesn't matter if anyone is connected or how many people are connected, the world is still there, it still exists, it's still evolving, it's still changing, right? And that's a really exciting notion in virtual worlds that hasn't been possible until recently. And then the second part of that phrase, the fact that it's owned by its users, this is something that we all get really giddy and excited about, right? And anyone who's working in blockchain technology in the Ethereum space, like the fact that digital ownership has come so far can play a huge role in pushing the advancement of virtual worlds. So for Decentraland, the three-dimensional space of the world is verifiably scarce and unique thanks to Ethereum. We'll dig a little bit more into land parcels and how those are represented by NFTs. But basically, like any cryptocurrency or crypto collectible, there's a finite number of parcels, the 16 meter by 16 meter chunks of land. And when those were minted, there was a set number, and then the owner of each parcel, along with other helpful information, like descriptions of the content that is on their land, all of that is recorded in a smart contract stored on the Ethereum blockchain. So it's this immutable ledger of the ownership of land and the content that's there. And then finally, by giving users ownership of land, giving them the tools that they need to build and deploy whatever they want on their land, we give them ownership of the world, right? And so the community at large has a very real stake in kind of the growth and the success of the platform.
Cool. So I think that we've got our first question from one of our attendees. I think it links right with what you just said, Eric, regarding ownership of land. So the Decentraland Foundation is based in Panama, and the DAO is.
Sorry, I just want to jump in. It's a little hard to hear you. Could you speak a little bit more loudly?
Oh, one second. Maybe my microphone. One sec. Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the DAO is based on Aragon. We worked with the team on setting up the rules for the particular things that we actually wanted, especially creating a security advisory board just in case there is some urgent change that needs to be made. And the DAO sometimes, so the other question is, does the DAO sometimes make decisions that need to be executed by the foundation? What are the guarantees that the foundation faithfully executes the decisions of the DAO? So yes, the idea of the DAO is to take some of the decisions that need to be implemented in like real life by human beings, that's the role of the foundation. I guess that the guarantees that the foundation will faithfully execute on that is, well, that's the purpose of the foundation. In the real world, the mandate of the foundation is to improve and execute on all the decisions of the DAO and on the behalf of mana holders and landowners and the community in general. So regarding, I hope that answers your question. If there's any other thing that you'd like to zoom in, I'll be happy to. And from Trevor, can you elaborate on ownership of land?
Is it just me or did we lose Esteban?
I think we lost him. Let's come back. When we get him back, we can come back to the question.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
Oh, here, I think we're all caught up. Sorry about that. Are you back with us, Esteban?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, super.
Cool. Awesome. So owning a land parcel allows you to deploy content inside there. In some way, it's encoding the user's attention of passers-by that happen to stumble upon your land, or it also provides you with a link for anyone to join there at that particular parcel. Other users don't have the same access to write on that land parcel, and they can't change the contents of your land unless you provide those access. But that will be like a more advanced kind of similar to how Web 2.0 allows you to allows users to collaborate and add their value. You're still like the owner of the server, even though you may have a second layer of user generated content, I'll say. Cool.
And I think that kind of ties into this other question that just came in, is from Ronald. Is this a game or does it have any real value? You say coins are property, is Decentraland also considered property from a tax point of view? So, like we mentioned earlier, Decentraland sort of is and is not a game at the same time, right? Most importantly, Decentraland is a platform on which anyone could create a game and host a game. You can think of it, like Esteban said, as a new version of the web, right? It's a protocol focused around creating, hosting, and serving three-dimensional content. The value of Decentraland is in that use. You might be able to make the argument that the value of the world is really dependent on the content that users put there. It's sort of like asking if the internet has value, and that depends on the particular part of the internet that you're looking at. In terms of from a tax point of view, I don't know the answer to that question. Not yet. It's not considered real estate. It's not subject to real estate law. But maybe Esteban, do you have any thoughts on that?
I guess it will enter in the same definition as any other NFT out there. Like you own this asset that may be similar to owning a piece of art or something like that. It's I wouldn't know anything further than that.
Yeah, it's early days still for NFTs. So cool. Let's see what's our next slide there, Nico. Oh yeah, so there's just a little bit more that we wanted to touch on. Oh, do you want to back up one? Sorry. One more.
Sorry, yes. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Looks like some keys are binded to Zoom, and okay, there we go. That's the one. No.
There we go. That's it.
This is the one.
That's it. There's more. There's more. It's okay. So there's a few other things that make Decentraland really exciting. The fact that all of the content is hosted in a decentralized fashion. So When compared to a lot of other traditional virtual worlds games, any kind of content online, the content that makes up the world and the code that's needed to run the world is hosted and served through this network of community-run nodes or servers. Anybody can start one of these up. You can just do it on your computer. Those nodes are all part of a network, and that network is approved by the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization that we referred to before. So the community can decide to add or remove nodes from this network. The fact that we have this democratically selected network means that it's really very difficult to kind of shut Decentraland down. There's not a single entity that has control over all the servers. It makes it more robust. It makes it a little bit more just long lasting. Secondly, it's open source. So the product, the tools that make Decentraland possible are all open source. Anyone can contribute code. And then finally, governance. We've talked about the DAO a few times. Anyone who has mana or land is able to vote on issues through the DAO. Things like adding nodes to the Catalyst network. Things like banning usernames that might be offensive. Things like adding particular places in the map to a list of like points of interest. Things that we think lots of other people should know about. Kind of this curated list of exciting content. And then also grant funding. So the Decentralized Autonomous Organization holds a considerable amount of mana. And then that mana can be allocated through the DAO to grant recipients. Okay, let's see. So, there are all of these tools that we use in Decentraland and that users have available to, create and share 3D content. This is the second exciting point about Decentraland. We have the builder. It's a very easy drag and drop editor for putting together kind of pre-made models and assets to create your own scenes, right? And scenes are those 3D environments that are uploaded to parcels, those 16-meter by 16-meter chunks of land that are represented by an NFT. We also have the SDK, which is a much more advanced, sophisticated tool set for developers and technical artists. It's got scripting support, so you can go in there and use the SDK to create games or to create more interactive content, like we'll see when we do our tour. And then finally, the world itself is a tool for sharing content, right? It allows people to browse organically, just as you can walk down the street and look at your neighbor's yard and see what they've done with their garden. You can go into Decentraland and browse organically and physically to see what kinds of things people have made. And it's a very different experience compared to, say, going to Google and searching for different kinds of content on the web, right? And so, finally, that notion on socializing, it's very much a social platform. So creators and visitors are the most important part of Decentraland. Without creators and visitors, there's really not much to it. And these people are all drawn in to see, different events and games and concerts. There's a lot of artists and DJs and creators that are using Decentraland as this platform for sharing the things that they're working on. And that kind of gives people a reason to show up. Often what we're seeing is that people are creating these new social networks within Decentraland, and that kind of gives them a reason to come back, right? And that sort of closes the loop, the game loop, right? And then finally, this notion of being able to own land, to own your username, to own wearables, that really improves retention. It gives people this commitment over the long term. Okay.
Right. I think it's time to actually get to show the real deal, what it's all really about. So if I just type this into my browser, I can just hop into Decentraland without downloading anything or anything of the sort. Just go play.decentraland.org. And I will just log into the world. If you're using MetaMask in your browser or some other browser inbuilt wallet, you can log using that, and your wallet is your user. Like you log in using your wallet directly. So this is what the world looks like. This is Genesis Plaza. This is like what's in the center of Decentraland, and these are a few other users who are just jumping in. I can look at myself in third-person view. Essentially, you can always jump in between first person and third person. And actually, if you log in for the first time you will actually see is the avatar editor. So if I open my backpack here, I can edit different things about my avatar. I can wear different clothes, or but this is actually a fancy occasion, so let's go for this,
Fantastic.
nice little t-shirt that pretends to be a tuxedo.
The classic tux
so-
t-shirt.
Exactly. So like several of these are, the default kinds of items you can have.
Sweet.
I can wear a kilt and, show off my legs. But there's also
Yeah.
several of these that are, NFTs. Like these collectible items are all, wearables that are actually, NFTs in the blockchain. So these are all valuable and tradable in the marketplace. Some are more rare than others. And some people are, really into collecting them as well. And as you see later, like several games also like give these out as prizes, and that's a huge incentive for players to just keep coming and keep finding ways to feel more special and that their character represents them better.
Enter into this
So
world.
Decentraland, as we said before, has a very strong social aspect to it. So
Nico, I think that
Uh-huh.
Rai wanted to say something.
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. I think I was just going to say, to give folks context, this world that we're in now, it's about the size of Washington, D.C., right?
Yes, exactly. So right now I'm looking at the whole map of the Decentraland, and as you can see, it's pretty big. Like each one of these squares here is 60 meters by 16 meters. Each one of these, by the way, is a parcel of land, which is as well an NFT, which can be bought and sold in the marketplace. And as you see, there's, these gray areas are like private sectors, where people can actually own the land. But then the roads, for example, are public spaces that are maintained by the foundation. And the same goes for these green areas, for example, Genesis Plaza, where we're standing on right now, which is a space that is maintained by the foundation as a public space for everyone. Yeah, the world is big. It's pretty damn big.
And there's an interesting question that just came in. What makes some land more valuable than other parcels, and do all landowners have equal voting rights in the DAO? There's a couple things that contribute to the value of land. Some of it is proximity to the center of the world. So when players are spawned, they're all, for the first time, they're dropped in Genesis Plaza, where we are now, it's coordinates 0, 0. Everything in Decentraland is laid out with Cartesian coordinates. So it's from -150 to +150 on the X, and same for the Y axis. So we find that parcels that are closer to the center of the map are worth a little bit more. And then also the value of the land is really dependent on the content that's there, right? In the same way that a domain doesn't have value on the internet until you put a website there that people care about. And then for that last point, do all landowners have equal voting rights in the DAO? They do. And so the value of your parcel of land doesn't determine the weight of your vote. It's just the number of parcels or the number of the amount of mana that you have that weights your vote.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm running around Genesis Plaza, just showing, different corners of the plaza. There's a bunch of different things, and some of these buildings have different purposes. We're gonna stop by quickly by the Trade Center building. It has just some, market information. It's just a place to, do some live updates of different, key metrics. For example, the mana price is here, and the tokens from Decentraland that were transacted in the last 7 days, including land and wearables. If we go up one floor, we can see other numbers like what is the cheapest parcel sold in the day, the week. And actually someone here sold a parcel for under 800 mana, which is really, really cheap. That's probably not a
Isn't there a piece for sale for like $80 million as well?
So if we take the most expensive single parcel here, the most expensive single parcel sold in the last 30 days was for 69,000 mana.
Oh, for a single parcel. This wasn't, I was thinking of an estate, right? It's people
right.
so parcels together in the form of an estate.
Exactly. So, oh, sorry about that. So this screen right here shows, for estates, of course, the value is going to be a lot more because, they might include quite a few parcels. And the most expensive one here was 300,000 mana in the last 30 days, which is, around $300,000 right now, which is quite crazy. If we go one more floor up, you can see metrics about wearables. And we can also see how many wearables were transacted the last week, month, day, which is the most expensive one traded by name. Also have different rarity categories. So like the mythic wearables, for example, there are only 10 of each. So the fact that one of those sold for 1,500 mana is quite cheap. And the most expensive one sold like in the last 30 days was 5,000 mana. So yeah, there's a nice place to, see some interesting metrics that we can just jump and not get any harm. Because yeah, the game is
For
designed so
everyone's
that,
benefit,
players
just
don't
really
just die.
quickly,
Yeah.
Sorry, a mana is about around $1 right now. Last I checked,
Yes.
it was $1.08. So just for everybody listening, that should put it into context.
Yeah. And yeah, as I was mentioning before, like Decentraland is a very social place. So it's all about interacting with other characters. We can chat right here. We can also do voice chat with other players who are around us. There's, friend features I can, grab. So some of these people seem to be stuck here. Oh, Eric is here. So I can, just grab him here, and he's actually a friend already, but I could grab some, random guy and add him as a friend. Let's hope he, doesn't end up being an obnoxious guy, but if he does, I can also block him, by the way. And I can also do some emotes. For example, yeah, I can wave to people and do other little animations that, yeah, help, make this a more interactive social kind of experience. All right, so the tour now continues in one of the games that we have here in Decentraland. It's called Wonder Mine, and this was created by someone in the community. And all these like dots here are players who are there. The gray dots are players who have been there for a while, like inactive, so they're kind of there but not quite moving around. As you see, this is a pretty popular spot because this is a game that enables a whole play to earn mechanic, and people have really taken to that. So it's a quite simple game. Like it's all about just grinding and looking for like different materials that are some like different rarities, and yeah, you can then use those in a crafting system to eventually create actual wearables, which are NFTs as well. So all the game is about is these meteors randomly fall around, and you can come up to them and mine them, and you might get some random rewards from them. And as you collect more and more of these, you can eventually trade them in as you would with like a an arcade gallery, and yeah, get something out of that. So in this case, I won a bunch of things. I can check my little backpack, which is specific to this game, and as you can see, I spent a while collecting these dumb little things. And if I come over to this like trading machine, I can see that I can exchange my stuff for like a better pickaxe to like mine more, like get more of it out of it, and eventually I can also trade them for actual wearables. I could also buy some of these like resources here for actual mana if I want to skip the whole grinding, or at least a part of it. And yeah, they made a nice display with the top prize, which is this really cool like wearable like that looks like a very cool robot. And as you can see, like there's a very limited supply, and many of them these have already been taken. Some people have spent a considerable amount of the time grinding away just to get this prize. So yeah, this is an excellent example of play to earn, and this scene always has quite a bunch of people who are always grinding away like mad. There's lots of other games. For example, this right here called Coco Jones is a really nice game. It was actually quite early on in the Decentraland that they made this, but it still holds its weight really nicely. It's kind of like a theme park kind of thing. Just move into first person, and yeah, I can just like shoot these little monkeys for banana prizes, and yeah, it really feels like a ride in the theme park. Oh, not hitting anything, but that's just my fault. Ah, come on. There we go. So yeah, this is a nice little game to show off. Like this, of course, is all done with the SDK. So the person who did this, had to write some code and do some custom art. But yeah, they came out with something that looks really, really well polished. All right, so I'm gonna jump off the cart and let's move on to the next stop on our tour. This is gonna be the Voltaire district. So this is a region of the map which is all dedicated to different art galleries, and it's full of really, nice places with a lot of art that keeps changing regularly. So you'll see that there's a number of buildings, and they all belong to like different like major players in the NFT space. You got like Pixel Chain, Super Rare, what's the name? Known Origin. What was the name of this one? Yeah, Maker's Place. Sorry. And there's music in this one, for example. Hope it's not too loud.
Maybe you can mute your tab.
I could, yeah, but I also wanted to show off like some like sound in the game. But I'll just avoid stepping on this one, which has pretty loud music for now. But yeah, all of these paintings you see on the walls in these buildings are NFTs themselves. Like all of the info in them is being picked up by from the blockchain. And if I click on any of these, I can also get directed to the pages where these are sold. In this case, Super Rare decided to direct their audience to their page. But in other cases, they are directing the paintings to oh, sorry about that. I was walking into a window.
Hello
literally.
everyone, this is Emma.
Like for example, see like the price at which it's being sold, and if it is being on sale at all, and decide to check it out on OpenSea and buy it if you choose to. So all of these creators and curators are constantly doing little events here, and they sometimes include webinars and whatever they choose to accompany the content they have here. So I think that's all we wanted to say about this district. So other than this is like a medium that can augment what you can do with NFT art, right? I mean, it can be more than just a JPEG. It can be a whole experience with music, with ambience, with a whole context that goes around it. So I think one of the most interesting things about Decentraland is that it is a context for NFT art. And it can, be more just because of being in a specific space and surrounded by other stuff. Sorry. Sorry, Sam. Yes.
So with a lot of these art platforms, they hold monthly events like they would in the real world, like opening events to promote emerging artists. And we have an annual event called Genesis City Art Week, excuse me, which all of the platforms and also a lot of real world galleries now are getting involved in, where it's like an NFT art week, like you would have in London or Paris or New York, but in the metaverse. And that's coming up in June again. And the events around these art galleries bring a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. All right, so next up on our tour is the White Rabbit Club. This is on, let me check the coordinates exactly. It's -6386. So here we are. And this is a music venue, basically. It's a club, and it's a space where like DJs have already played before. It's also, it's got a sort of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of feel, which is quite cool. But since this is a nightclub, this actually do something that we haven't done yet, which is switch over to night mode. And this completely changes the aesthetic. Suddenly it's like nighttime and the lights look completely different. And yeah, like for certain places, it's definitely more suiting. So yeah, this is kind of like, Alice in Wonderland inspired. You're going into this giant mushroom, which is, the actual venue where stuff happens. So yeah, as I was saying, like this is a spot where, musicians have played already. And me being an admin of the scene, I can open this little UI and control some really nice effects that can also augment experience quite a lot. So like these could be like controlled live to, keep the whole event fun and not be, just a live stream, and be a bit more than that. This place also has some other cool little features, like you can suddenly break the windows if you want. don't know if you can, oh, sorry, there we go. I hop onto any window, I can just break it, or I can break them all like this. And that's a really nice effect. Also got a few.
I think that
arcade machine.
the Zoom streaming is a little bit choppy, so the
Oh.
animations may not be seen like very well. So if you could please try not to move the mouse too fast, because I'm getting a little bit dizzy.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, sorry about that, and sorry if anyone there is feeling a bit dizzy here. Like on my machine, I'm seeing this stream super smooth at like 60 frames per second. But yeah, of course, the streaming over to your end could not be as smooth. And yeah, when things get choppy and move too much, it could be dizzying. But hopefully, if you run this in your machine, you shouldn't feel that at all. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention here is that we've had a few very interesting live gigs already. With some even like award-winning musicians like Rack, who's won an Emmy recently, and also Blau, Dylan Francis, and there's quite a few other shows planned for the near future, which should be super exciting as well. We think that especially with all of this lockdown context where people are really missing live shows and opportunities to see their favorite artists live, this is probably not a replacement, but definitely the next best thing, I guess, or the best thing available right now.
It's worth saying here that the music industry have really woken up to the NFT space in the last couple of months, and we've been approached by all of the major record labels, as well as like AAA artists, some of which are already in development. So events again over the next 3 to 6 months are going to be just incredible. And we also plan a summer music festival to bring a lot of these big acts together in one weekend.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next spot on our tour. And this is going to be right at the other corner of the world in Dragon City. So Dragon City is maintained by a very tightly knit Chinese community. And with this, I just want to show that there's, a whole huge range of diversity of, people with different objectives and different ideas of what they can do here in Decentraland. And this place just, it looks stunning. Like there's a lot of very nice art to check out. And yeah, the Chinese community is super active in Decentraland, even in spite of, us not yet, localizing the text and a whole lot of other things that we plan to do in the near future. But even in spite of that, they're super excited and they're super active as well. As you can see, this is eye candy. So yeah, the next spot on our tour is Crypto Valley. And Crypto Valley, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to note that we've got users and content creators from all major regions of the world. We've been having some difficulties with deploying content inside of China because of the Great Chinese Firewall, but we're working with some people from the community who are running a server from inside of China, and we're trying to help them provide as smooth an experience as possible. The Dragon City experience land parcel scene has been created by one of the communities from China.
So now I'm diving into Crypto Valley, and this is a spot where we have many businesses and business headquarters of many companies of the whole crypto space. This is kind of the anybody who's anybody has some kind of presence here. You see that we have a whole lot of different buildings, and there's actually a very long queue of other companies that also want to have a presence here, and we're gradually enabling them to set up shop. So yeah, we have Whale Game Credits. This year is Polygon. And each one of these has some of it. This is actually the foundation building, which is just one more building in this whole ecosystem, Rari. And we like to think of these as kind of like 3D websites, like institutional websites, just in a 3D format. So yeah, like all of these have social links and a possibility of doing this is like a cool, bizarre little thing where these guys just follow you around.
Nico, could you provide some idea of how big are the land states that you need to set up these buildings? Like, for example, this Maker Bao building, is it like 3 by 2?
Make it out is 2 by 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems
Parcels?
Yeah,
yes.
4
Yeah.
parcels.
That's incredible that you can do this on. Yeah, on that few parcels.
Yeah.
And then just another note on that, we mentioned that land is represented by an NFT, and then you can take individual parcels of land and connect those into estates. I think we've touched on that briefly. And then estates can be bought and sold as a unit as well on the marketplace or traded. And so a lot of these bigger creations are built on estates, obviously, because they take up quite a bit more space. And I saw a question earlier asking if there are like mineral rights, if there's anything underneath the land. There's not. You can't build below kind of that base layer, but there are height limits to how high you can build. Off the top of my head, I don't remember how high that is. Nico, do you remember?
So it's proportional to how many parcels you got in a scene. So if you just got one single parcel, I believe the height was it 30 or 40? But as you add more and more parcels to the single scene, this grows at decreasing rates. So like eventually you kind of almost hit a roof, but the roof is pretty high if you got enough parcels.
And then the idea is that is just another way to kind of enforce that, finite nature of the size of land, right? We don't want people to be able to build as high as they want, and then they can fit whatever content they want on their one small parcel.
Although it's worth noting that even though there's no underground level, there are ways of cheating it, and using visual magic, people have created basements and things like that. Very clever.
If I own, for instance, which I do, this is really interesting. I bought parcels a couple of years ago, and now I'm getting people are writing in at bidding me to try to buy my parcels. But if I have one disparate parcel, I could build like a nail salon on that parcel if I wanted to. Just with
yes, 100%. But actually, one of the developers built something called an infinity engine, which means that he can turn one parcel into an infinite space. And he has a full game where you travel on a train for like miles inside one parcel. Very clever. And that actually does involve mining rights, to answer the question from before. You have to mine gold in that game.
Yeah. So that kind of works like a treadmill. Like it's like, the ground is moving below your feet and simulating like infinite space without actually going beyond the limits of the scene.
And we have to say, this came from the community and it blew us away. We didn't expect that kind of ingenuity from what we'd built up until now, but the community take things to places we never imagined.
Yeah, there's a lot of creativity up there. Like they always blow us away. Okay, so this here is the convention center, and Eric was telling you before that we have this WTF NFTs conference. And yeah, this is the venue where that's going to happen. So this event will be starting in 15 minutes from now. And this event has a pope. These popes are proof of attendance protocol. They're little tokens that represent that I was there at the meeting. So if I claim this, I should be getting an answer from this right now. Yep. So I can actually check and see that, that I in fact got this token from the event. If I go to app.pope.xyz, I should be able to, use my MetaMask, sign, and I should be able to see that I just obtained a token on layer 2 which was, by the way, was free of any kind of gas fee. And yeah, I have something to prove that I was here at the event, as well as, you know, a bunch of other events.
That's really interesting because like there's probably or likely a future state where something like that could be used for education, like trainings, where everybody you have to select certain popes and show that you had a certain number to get a certification.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of groups who have talked about using Decentraland as a sort of educational platform, right? I mean, a lot of people are attending lectures and classes on Zoom. There's no reason why you couldn't do that in Decentraland also and have a lecture hall filled with students.
We have a Decentraland University, and the Bitcoin Education Network are very involved in that, and they run from Stanford and Cambridge and Oxford and the biggest universities across the world. So they're actually super involved in the Decentraland University.
Let's see, there's another question that came up here that I think is quite important. Somebody was asking what the use of Mana is in Decentraland. Are there events that you can pay to attend or things you can do with Mana in Decentraland? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Mana is an ERC20 token. It's the native currency of the world, and you could definitely have content and you could sort of charge an entry fee. Right, you could definitely restrict the access to your land. I think, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Nico, right? I mean, you could, you know, you can. What's that?
Yeah, it's absolutely done. Several scenes have, you know, charged admission fees, or you know, have set up a virtual shop for wearables or other tokens as well in their scenes, paying Mana.
A more common use, rather than paying entry fee with Mana, is to buy an NFT that's a ticket with Mana, and that NFT can be read in your wallet and can decide whether you get into the scene or not.
And then obviously Mana is also used to, you know, buy and sell land as well. So, you know, there's the separate marketplace, market.decentraland.org, where people can buy and sell, you know, land, usernames, wearables, you know, all sorts of different NFTs. You know, Mana is sort of the native currency for those exchanges.
We should probably touch on usernames as well. The usernames, the passport as we call it, is also a URL. So that can actually point to a piece of land. Your username can be a URL that points directly to a piece of land as well.
Exactly, and that ties into the nature of sharing content with people, right? There needs to be relatively easy ways to kind of tie your content in Decentraland with the rest of the internet, right? And that's a really useful tool for that. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that my link dropped out.
Oh, you're back with us.
Yeah, you were gone for a minute or two. But
does Mana have any value outside of Decentraland? It's another question that just came in.
I was just typing the answer to that. We're about to open the first travel agency in Decentraland, where you can buy hotels and flights from inside Decentraland on a Skyscanner type platform. And many people are starting to integrate their own systems in using Mana. You know, we're trying to integrate things like Shopify as well at the moment. So to use cryptocurrency,
Flight, like a Delta flight, I can go into Decentraland, use my Mana, buy a Delta flight to before.
Yeah, this is like 2 or 3 weeks away from us releasing this. Also, somebody recently built a Domino's pizza and ordered pizza from inside Decentraland. It was delivered, and I think somebody even like took a photo of it and then made an NFT out of the photo of the first pizza delivered. Yeah,
I was just about to bring that up. That's a super fun example of things that you can do with a small amount of land. You know, I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot of possibilities.
And of course, Mana is also, you know, just like any other coin that, you know, gets traded on Ethereum network. It can be exchanged and traded like completely freely. It's not restricted to the platform at all.
Another interesting question here: are there comparable virtual lands governed by, you know, the same kind of principles, or is Decentraland unique? There are similar projects in that other people are building virtual worlds kind of backed by Ethereum. You know, Sandbox is one example. But they all look very different. They're all governed a little bit differently. You know, they might kind of enforce that scarcity of space with the blockchain.
I think it's
Actually,
also important to make the distinction that the others aren't decentralized.
Exactly.
This is what really makes us unique, is the decentralized nature of what we do.
And Decentraland is open source, right? So it's not just that the content is hosted in a decentralized way, but the you know, the code base is all open source. So it's decentralized in more ways than any other virtual world right now.
I think this is going to get discussed a lot in the conference tonight. But yeah, it's
exactly.
The decentralized nature of it means that true ownership is really true. Nobody can take that away. We have this phrase, no acts of God, because in the past, virtual worlds have actually had the ownership of your assets, not you. And when that closes down or they change the rules, those assets get taken away.
So yeah, I think this conference that will start right now will be a perfect place to know more about that as well. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to mention that there's an interesting question regarding assets and whether they live on the Ethereum blockchain. So the world itself, we've got a network of servers run by community members. The foundation also runs some of those content servers. The Decentraland Foundation is in a position of pretty much shutting down all of their servers. Well, maybe the builder and the events page, those are run by the foundation and those are not decentralized. But the experience itself is served by the nodes of the network. There's a list of preferred nodes. You can connect your own, but there's a list of, let's call them like basic DNS servers to where to connect that is decided upon by the DAO. And even if we shut down our servers, some of these Catalyst and node runners, they've showed interest in running this play.decentraland.org themselves, which we think it would be great for decentralization. So in summary, it's pretty much, it's very decentralized, everything is open source, and the content and communications happen in a completely peer-to-peer way. Okay, some other questions. Decentraland being a better option than Sandbox. It's a nice question. So I guess that we are live already. We don't focus that much on gaming. We want this to be more of a social platform or social experience, kind of like for more serious kinds of use cases. Also, I think that differently to Sandbox, we allow arbitrary shaped 3D models, not just voxels. So I guess in that regard, we are not so much a competitor. Okay, I've got to go because I'm a panelist in this conference, and I think I gotta connect to that other call. But it's been great seeing all of you and answering these questions. Have been super interesting.
Thank you.
Feel free to write to me.
Thanks for being on.
Decentraland or through Rake. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Esteban.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
really
being
appreciate it.
generous with your time. And I think, you know, we can start to wrap up. Feel free to hop off and I'm going to just wrap things up. First of all, thank you so much, Esteban, Eric, Nico, and Sam, for sharing your time with us. I think everybody learned a lot, so thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us today, everybody who dialed in. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the newly launched Grayscale Decentraland Trust. It derives its value from mana, which is the only currency in Decentraland, and has a finite supply. Mana are burned. And so the value proposition is that as this ecosystem is built more and grows more, value will accrue to the token. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us with questions on the trust, on Decentraland in general. We love talking about it, and have a great weekend. Bye,
Super.
everyone.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you for
Yeah,
joining us.
thanks so much for this opportunity. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, all of you are invited to check out this this conference if you want to know more about Decentraland and the whole ecosystem as well. I think it's going to be a really interesting opportunity to learn about that a bit more. And after this conference, there's even going to be a live show that will involve like some like big time old school funk band thing as well. So yeah, you're welcome to hop in if you're interested and have the time.
And obviously, if you're interested in following the project a little bit more, we're on Twitter. We have a Discord space. We have a blog, blog.decentraland.org. There's a lot of resources out there if you're looking for a little bit more technical details about the platform, or if you just have more questions. We have a thriving community that's excited to help newcomers, and then also members of the foundation are pretty active in these channels as well.
Okay, great. Well, bye everyone. Have an awesome weekend.
Thank you.